Good morning. As we go to the chitas of today, we're holding in Parshas Boy. Very special chitas today. The first mitzvah, the Torah to the Jewish nation. I believe is going to be brought down a chitas today. We're holding in chapter 11, verse number 4 in the book of Exodus. Moshe Rabbeinu said, Hashem, this is what the Abish said, at midnight, around midnight. I'm going out in the midst of Egypt. Rashi said when he stood before Pharaoh, this prophecy was said to him. He didn't have to even go out. He was told the prophecy while he was standing in the front of the Pharaoh. Or after Moshe Rabbeinu left the Pharaoh's presence, he did not see him again. Pharaoh came running after him. Rashi says, when the night is divided. This is like when the meal offering was off, like, Lord, when their anger is kindled against us. This is a simple meaning which fits the context that chatzais is not a noun denoting a half. Rabbis have interpreted chatzi alayla at about midnight, half of the night. They said that Moshe Rabbeinu said chatzais about midnight, meaning near to it midnight, either before or after. Take a minute or two. He didn't tell him exact. The Abish just said exactly bachatzais. Moshe Rabbeinu said kachatzais. Because at midnight, at least the Pharaoh astrologers err and say Moshe Rabbeinu is a liar. It didn't happen at midnight. It didn't happen exactly on time. Every firstborn will die in the land of Egypt. The Bechor party from the Bechor of Pharaoh, first by Yeshal Akisi was sitting on the throne. At Bechor Shifcha, even the firstborn of a maid, Asher Achar Achaim, that's sitting behind a millstone. Bechol Bechor Behema, and every firstborn of every animal will also die. Now she says, Lama Lakam Ashvuyim, why were the captives smitten? Why were these women smitten? So they would not say our deity has demanded vengeance for their degradation and brought retribution upon Egypt. So everybody was enjoying the slavery of the Jews. This is a very pertinent to our situation we're living in. Everybody is happy. The Egyptians are all happy, even though they didn't all put the Jews in slavery. They were all satisfied with the situation. Nobody complained. All of those inferior to Pharaoh's firstborn and superior to the slaves, woman's firstborn included. Why the sons of slave women died? Because they would too enslave them. They were happy, again, with their misfortunes. Even the slaves of the Egyptian slaves were happy that the Jewish people were being persecuted and put into slavery. What do you have against the animals? Because the Egyptians worshipped it. The cow was one of their deities. And when the Holy One, blessed be He, punishes a nation, He punishes their deity, the entity that they worship. It's going to be such a cry in the land of Egypt. It was never such a cry. It's never going to be such a cry. Verse number 7. The children of Israel, not even a dog will wet its tongue. The mishvat behema, from man to beast. The mantedu, so you will see. How the Eibishter was separated between Mitzrayim, Ubein Ben Yisrael, and the Jewish people. Now she says, what means the won't wet his tongue? I say that the term means sharp, won't sharpen his tongue. Similarly, his tongue towards any man of Bnei Yisrael, he did not sharpen. That they will utter a sharp sound, a sharp thresher. The thought of sharp one, meaning the sharp and clever person, essence that even some interpreted, even the smart ones among them will shut their mouths. They won't use their press to hurt, to talk out against Jews. That Yafli Yavdil, Yodikol Avdecha, and all these servants of yours will come down. They lied to me. Ishtachvali, and you'll bow down to me. Lamet, say, Ata v'chalam, go, you and your entire nation, Asher that's at your feet. Achikain Eitze, and then we will go out. Yetzim in Pari, and Moshe Rabbeinu left the Pharaoh, B'chariaf, with a burning anger. Rashi Yodakol Avdecha, by using this phrase, Moshe Rabbeinu showed respect to the throne. He didn't say, you're going to come down. He said, your servants will come down. Because eventually Pharaoh himself went down to him that night. Get up and get out of this place. Although Moshe had not originally said, you will come down and bow down to me. So he didn't say that to respect the Pharaoh. Asher b'raglecha, what means that your feet, those who follow your advice and your ways. V'achikain, with all the people from your land, v'yetzim in Pare, after he completed his words, he went out from him, b'chariaf, because he, the Pharaoh, had said to him, he shall no longer see my face. Moshe and God said to Moshe, don't worry, Pharaoh is not going to listen to you. You think you're threatening him? Not going to be threatened. So my miracle will increase in the land. Now she says by miracles denotes 2, increase denotes 3. That they are the plague of firstborn, the splitting of the sea, and the steering of the Egyptians within the sea. So there's 3 other great miracles that were going to happen. Moshe Aaron did all these miracles. Leifari before the Fari, and God hardened the heart of Pharaoh. He didn't budge. Did not send the children of Israel out of his land. Now she says, this already is written for us in reference to all the miracles. Torah did not repeat it here except to connect the next section. Only chapter 12, verse number 1. God said to Moshe and to Aaron, Be'eretz Mitzrayim, in the land of Egypt, Lamer saying. Rashi says, even though we're going to the first commandment of the Torah, what does Aaron have to do with the situation? This is really the law of the Torah is connected to Moshe. Since Aaron had toiled with the miracles just like Moshe, he accorded him the honor at the first command. This is the first mitzvah that the Yidden were given, by including him with Moshe in this mitzvah. This is brought on the Medrash. Be'eretz Mitzrayim, Rashi says outside the city, might think it means only within the city. Therefore, the Torah says, when I leave the city, I will spread my hands to the Lord. Now, if the prayer, which is a minor importance, Moshe Rabbeinu prayed out of Mitzrayim, out of the city limits, because it was full of idols, a divine communication, a mitzvah that was given to the Jewish nation, which is a very major importance, how much more so that it was not given in Mitzrayim. So it means out of Mitzrayim, outside the city limits of Egypt, of the capital of Egypt. Verse number 2, this is the first mitzvah. This is with the first Rashi. The Torah should have started off with this. The Torah should have started off the whole Torah with this mitzvah. This month shall be to the head of the months, month of Nisan. The month of Nisan is going to be from now on the first month in the Hebrew calendar. It's the first year of the months of the year. Now she says, this renewal, God showed him the moon. In its renewal, because it's a very difficult calculation, how long the moon is, so to say, bright to the world, and then it wanes and it disappears. And when is it reborn? That's what we do Meilot HaLavana. We announce the exact moment that the day and the hour and the chelek, when the moon is going to be. It's a very deep calculation. Rabbeinu was shown it. The moon renews itself. You will have a new month. It's Mechilta. Nevertheless, despite his rendering, a biblical verse does not lose its simple meaning. Concerning the month of Nisan, he said to him, this shall be the first in all of the months. So that Iyar, from now on, is called the second month. And Sivan is called the third month. That's when the beginning of the Torah, with the Mabel, Tishrei is the first month. So when he created the world, Tishrei was the first month. And Cheshvan was the second month. When he chose the Jewish nation, which is in this week's Parsha, going out of Mitzrayim, he chose the Jewish nation in Egypt. He gave the Jewish people that the month of Nisan will be the first month. Hazeh, as I said, Moshe found a difficulty to determine the precise moment. This is not an easy calculation. Renewal of the moon. He couldn't figure it out. And what size it should appear before it's fit for sanctification. Because if it's not there, you can't sanctify it. So you have to know exactly the moment the moon starts to appear. So he showed him with his finger, so to say, the moon in the sky and said to him, you must see the moon like this. That's when it says Hazeh. Hazeh means when you put not Kazeh like this, but Hazeh this. Abishah showed him exactly, God showed him exactly, told him exact calculation. Actually, Gemara later on says a sage gives the exact calculation of a very long number, 29 dot, like 10 numbers after that. And they asked him, how do you know that? He said, that's what Moshe Rabbeinu told on Mount Sinai. The Abishah showed him exactly the exact calculation. Now, how did he show it to him? Did he not speak to him only by day? As written, I'll come to pass the day the Lord spoke to me. On the day I was commanded. On the day the Lord commanded on. Rather, just before sunset. So the Moshe Rabbeinu was talking to the God. It was actually mamish, right? It was at the end of the day, mincha time. And God told him, okay, now the Levana is coming out. This chapter was said to him, and he showed him the moon when it became dark. So that was the first mitzvah. Now we're going to the next thing, but the first mitzvah was Kiddush HaChodesh, that a Jew should sanctify the month, and the Nisan is the first month, and we do Kiddush HaChodesh every month. We do sanctify the moon. Then also speak to the Jewish people, saying, on the 10th of the month, Nisan, Hazeh, this year. This is only when it says Hazeh, means that only this year they only did this mitzvah. Kiddush HaChodesh is forever. We still do it till today. But this mitzvah of taking a sheep on the 10th of the month is only a mitzvah for that year. It was never done again. They should take a lamb each to their parental home, a lamb to each household. Now she says, Daberu, again plural. Now, did Aaron speak? Was it necessary? Was it not already stated to Moshe, you shall speak? So why does it say Daberu, you shall, that they shall speak? Or you in plural, and you speak to the children of Israel. But Moshe and Aaron would show respect to each other. And they would turn to each other. You say it. He said, no, you say it. You heard it better. No, you understand it better. Whatever. They would argue with each other. And ultimately, teach you what you say, the speech would emanate from between them both. So there were like two chayzrim, two people that repeated God's words. So everybody added something to what God said, so to say. Speak to the Jewish people, the 10th of the month. Now she said, speak to them today. Today is Rosh Chodesh. Today we sanctified the moon. First time in history we sanctified the moon. And now tell to them that on the 10th of the month, they should take 10 days, they should take a korban. Hazeh, now she says, like I said, the Passover sacrifice of Egypt had to be taken on the 10th, but not the Passover sacrifice of later generations. So this was a mitzvah only for that year. Now she says a lamb for one family. If the family members are numerous, you would think that one lamb would suffice for them all. Therefore, the Torah says a lamb for a household. It It was not, you made sure to figure out how many people were in the house and how big of a say you need. Let's say if the household is too small, and a lamb is going to be too much for this household, because you have to eat it. You have to finish the lamb before that night, so they had to finish lamb before midnight. So what happens if the family only has 2 people, 4 people? A lamb is pretty big. So that's why you have to invite guests. You have to invite your neighbor. Somebody close to your house. It's because there has to be according to the number of people. You have to figure out how big of a lamb you're going to get and how many people can finish this lamb. You should count on the lamb. Now she says if there was too few people in one lamb, but they cannot eat it all, and it becomes leftovers, you're not allowed to eat leftovers. You're not allowed to have leftovers. You're not allowed if you have leftovers, it's to be burned, but you're not allowed to intentionally have leftovers. So therefore, you have to invite a guest. Then he and his neighbor shall take. This is the apparent meaning according to the simple interpretation. That's a simple law. However, there's also a midrashic interpretation, namely that the verse comes to teach us that after they were counted on it and they registered for a certain lamb, they may diminish their number and withdraw from it and be counted on another lamb. That the Torah tells you, if I let them invited, because I don't have enough people and you don't have enough people, so you invite me to your Seder. And together we're going to be able to finish this lamb. I decide before Pesach, I want to go to somebody else. I want to be invited by somebody else. Somebody else invited, and I want to go to them. I'm allowed to do that, as long as the lamb was not shechted, as long as the lamb was not slaughtered. So if, however, they wish to withdraw it and diminish their number, they must do so when it's still a lamb, still a physical animal. They must diminish the number of the lamb still exists while it's still alive, and not after it's been slaughtered. So after it's been slaughtered, I cannot renege. That's it. Stuck with this group, and I have to go to this group. I can't say I'm uninviting myself. The Rasha is becheshbon in the amount. You have to do the amount. You have to, again, because we don't want to leave over anything of this lamb after midnight. So we want to make sure that we finish it. At least that's our intent, to finish it. Sometimes you can't, but our intent is to finish. To begin with, our intent is to finish this lamb. You have to evaluate what can you eat. Everybody you have to know, because let's say you have a sick person. A person sick. A person is very old. He cannot eat a kazayas even. Let's say he couldn't eat. He can't. But then you have to know that who can eat, who cannot eat, and how much they could eat. So this is tisnam to be counted. This is a mitzvah. It's very interesting. This was always that there was a mitzvah that you have to be counted in. So every Jew, who it might be, whether a child, adult, needed to be part of the seh. So before a person went to buy a seh for this Korban Pesach, you need to know. You couldn't just go a big seh, he's going to act like a big guy. And meanwhile, he cannot finish it. So he needs to know how many people are going to be on the seh. And it needs to be according to the count that we know there's 20 people on the seh. What kind of a size set? Because we need to eat at least a kazayas, not a lot, but the minimum of what's allowed to be, what's obligated to. I'm sorry, set is a sheep, so it needs to be that you have, because the set, the carbon of that day was a sheep. That was a Korban Pesach, which today we don't do. We have a shank bone, or the shank bone is the Korban Pesach, or whatever. So we don't have a carbon today. So we don't have this obligation. But when Mashiach comes, we're going to bring a Korban Pesach, Be'ezat Hashem. And you're going to have to make sure to know how many people are on this sheep. So we're going to finish the sheep by midnight. And when they're going to 100% try to finish every morsel of flesh from the sheep by midnight of the first night of Pesach. Said Tamim, this says shall be a male in the first year. Year lechem, it shall be for you. Menakvasim, you can take it either for the sheep, menaizim, or it could be a goat. Both of them are called in the Torah sheep. So therefore, it can be a goat, it can be a sheep, a lamb. Tamim, first of all, these are laws that the Yidden, this is the first law. The first laws that the Yidden got. So it needs to be a complete beloy mum without any blemishes. All these things, Mitzvah, we're going to learn in Vayikra, but here we have it already. It needs to be a year. It needs to be a beloy mum without any blemishes. Ben Shana, the entire first year is called a Ben Shana. This is important because, again, if you're going to buy a sheep, you within the first year, if you have a big crowd, you need a bigger one. If you have a smaller crowd, you need a smaller one. That says either from these species or from that species. For a goat is called a seh. In the Torah, a goat and a sheep are interchanged, and it both either goat or sheep. In general, that's not important. I mean, it's important over here because it could be a goat or a sheep. Mitzvah, we'll learn the Vayikra. When it comes to the sacrificial offerings, seh or goat. And then you take the sheep in Mitzrayim. You take it on the 10th day of the month, and you have to put it in your house. You have to protect it. Ad Abasiyim to the 14th day of Nisan. This month. And then in the afternoon of the 14th, everybody will shecht this little goat or sheep in the afternoon. Nash says this is an expression of inspection. The meshmeres, what we use when you say it to watch something, like shmura matzah. Shmura matzah means that the matzah was watched, protected. This animal needed to be protected. It needed to be inspected. That the animal requires an inspection for a blemish 4 days before it's slaughtered. To make sure, you have to make sure 4 days to watch this animal. That you buy it without a blemish, and he stays without a blemish. Now, why is designated an animal taking 4 days to be before it's slaughtered? Why do you need to do that? It's a pain in the neck. To take an animal into your house 4 days before the shechting, why would you do it? The best thing would be you go buy an animal the day of the 14th. That's what they did throughout history. They didn't do this mitzvah any time else but then. So why was it needed? Something not required Passover sacrifice for later generations. So Amasya, the son of Chodesh, responded, behold, God said, I passed by you, and I saw that you behold that it was a time of love, a time of fulfillment of the oath that I swore to Avram that I wouldn't redeem his children. His children had arrived, but they, the children of Israel, had no commandments in their hands, which they occupied themselves in order to be redeemed. As it said, you were naked and bare. You were naked. So I gave them 2 mitzvahs, the blood of Passover and the blood of circumcision. They circumcised themselves on that night, as it says, downtrodden with your blood, b'damayach. We say this in the Haggadah. With the 2 plights of blood, damayach is plural. 2 types of blood. God said, O state, and you shall blood of your covenant. I have freed you from the prison of the pit in which you were with no water. Moreover, they were passionately fond of idolatry. So first of all, they had to do this. They had to prepare themselves for the blood. This was a big thing for them. They were not used to anything. They never did mitzvahs. They never did any commandments. They were going to do 2 big commandments. They're going to circumcise themselves. So that was a bigger one. They're going to circumcise all the Jews all the males circumcised. They haven't circumcised themselves in years. They never did the mitzvah of circumcision, even though it was given to Avraham Avinu. But they didn't give. So that means all men needed to circumcise themselves. That was a big one. And then they all needed to take this carbon and circumcise and shecht it. So it's a very busy day, the 14th by day. So, moreover, the Israel number 2 is the Israelites were passionately fond of idolatry. That was a big problem. Not the problem was the Egyptians. There was a big problem with the Jews. And we know that because even 1/5 of the Jews left Egypt. A lot of the Jewish people. Very good question. Pashas, the Abish to heal them. They had no pain. So it must have been, it doesn't mention that they were in pain. They had pain at all. So the God must have healed them. Moreover, the Israelites were passionately. The bigger problem was that the Jews themselves were into idolatry. We know that they even took the idols even into the desert. Moshe said to withdraw and take for yourselves. He meant withdraw from idolatry. Therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu wanted, the Eibishter wanted that this should be, you're going to take a carbon, you're going to take a sacrifice that you're going to have to do with something that you feel is an idol. That was a big thing for the Jews, a big step for them. Withdraw for a child, take for yourself a sheep for a mitzvah. So therefore, this was a mitzvah in itself. Take for yourself. That was like a separate mitzvah. Like, take for yourself. Take the get rid of your idols. And in essence, the sheep was an idol itself. So you have to take yourself away from this and take it for a mitzvah. And that was a difficult thing. And now you shall all slaughter. Everybody slaughtered. No. Therefore, here we learn a general law that when somebody shechs for you, it's like you shechted. Somebody slaughters for you, it's like you. So when somebody does a mitzvah for you, it's like you did the mitzvah. Kal Adas Yisrael. Now she says the meaning is you have a kal, adah, you have a community. Congregation is a kal, adas is a community. And Israel. From here, the rabbi said the communal Paschal sacrifice are slaughtered in 3 distinct groups. They made 3 groups. Kahal, Adas, Yisrael. They created 3 different groups with thousands and thousands of people came to Yerushalayim. Time of the Beis Hamikdash. Even in the desert, because it was basically, it had to be shechted bein arbayim by half day. So by half a day of the 14th, they had to all start bringing the Korban Pesach, which was a busy day. Thousands of korbanos. So they divided it into 3 groups. When the first group entered, the doors of the temple clocked until the group finished, and then the second group came in. So thousands of people came to the first group. You had to book yourself on which group you're going to be part of. Bein Arbayim. So what's Bein Arbayim? This is a difficult calculation and big argument. The Gemara Pesachim. Learn the Gemara. From 6 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours after sunrise and onwards is called Bein Arbayim. Actually, like midday, in the regular time, 12 o'clock is midday. Not by Jewish. Chatzai Siyeh, midday, is not 12 o'clock. It never comes out to be exactly 12 o'clock because we divide the day into 12, whatever, depends how long the day is. So for example, today, Chatzai is 12:31. In the Shah, what's called in Halacha, Shah Zmaniyus. The hours that are divided into Zman, into calculation of time. So we divide the day into 12 chalakim, whatever the hour could be 60 minutes, or some days in the winter it's shorter because the sunrise to sunset in the winter is shorter. So in the summertime with Pesach, in the summertime it's longer. So Shashemesh Neita, literally between 2 evenings, for the sun is inclined towards a place where it sets to become darkened. It seems to me, expression Bein Arbayim denotes those hours between the darkening of the day and the darkening of the night. The darkening of the day is the beginning of the 7th hour, when the shadow of the evening declines. And the darkening of the night begins of the night, Erev, is an expression of the evening of darkness, like the joy of darkness. So again, this is called Shah Zmanis. We start from Aleis HaShachar. Example, today, I'm just looking at my thing over here. Aleis HaShachar, the dawn is 5:58. Nate's sunrise is 7:10. There's never an even number over here. And if you go 7:10, you have 9:15. 9:14 is latest Shema. Chatzais today, as I said, is 12:31, and Shkia sunset is 5:52. It's a very very, very complicated calculation, how you divide the day. And as I said, even this thing, Bein Abayim, when you, for example, that's why out of Pesach, we have three different times when we stop eating chametz, when we burn the chametz, when everything is prohibited. So there's different times, there's different calculative time. The fourth, the fifth hour, the fourth hour, the fifth hour, the sixth hour, the seventh hour, etc. Verse number 7. And then you should take the blood and you should put it on the 2 doorposts. This is only done in Mitzrayim. You don't do this. They never done this again. This was a mitzvah in Mitzrayim. Valamashkef on the lintel. Valabatim on the houses. Asher yechlo yisabem, when you're going to eat this sacrifice. You're going to eat the Pesach Seder. So mezuzah, you see, here's the first time it's mentioned mezuzah. Mezuzah is the doorpost. That's a mezuzah. Your mezuzah is put on the doorpost. A mashkef is the top part, the lintel. This is receiving the blood of the animal neck immediately after it's slaughtered. Number one, slaughtered. I would think, that it would be received by hand. Therefore, the Torah says in a basin later on, specifically the blood to be received in a vessel. Ana mezuzahs, these are the upright posts, one from this side of the entrance, and one from that side. Mashkef, Elyon Shadela Shekel, this is the upper beam which the door strikes, and when it's closed. The word shkifa means striking, so that's why it's called a mashkef. It's a top beam, the door hits and closes. Ala bottom, but not on the lintel. On the doorpost of the house used for storing straw, or the house used for cattle, it needs to be done in the house that the Jewish people are eating. Actually, it was in the inside. A lot of pictures we see, they put it on the outside, but that's not true. It was put on the inside. And they should eat the meat on that night. It's liyesh. So first of all, the carbon needs to be eaten by the night. Number 2, it needs to be roasted, not cooked, roasted. Well, matzahs, and they have to eat unleavened bread. Almaredim, and they have to eat bitter herbs. Yechelu, they shall eat. So you see something interesting that they ate the bitter herbs in the Mitzrayim. That's abasa. Rashi says, it's not the sinews and the bones. Matzahs, every bitter herb is called mutter. He commanded them to eat bitter herbs in commemoration the bitterness of their lives. Verse number 9. Do not eat it rare. No, you should eat it boiled. You shouldn't eat cooked meat. You should only eat roasted on a fire. Its heads with its legs, it means to be, you have to take like an animal and cook and roast it, the whole animal as one. Rashi says, no, something not roasted sufficiently is called no. Can't eat raw. Including prohibition, you should not eat it. Eat cooked meat that night. How you know about you're cooking it in juice, other liquids? So therefore, therefore the Torah tells later any kind of manner of cooking. Above the verse 8 is decreed upon it the animal sacrifice with a positive commandment, and here he adds it the negative commandment: you shall not eat except roast over the fire pit. Rashi, one should roast it completely as one, with its heads and its legs and with its innards. Now, one must place the intestines inside after it's been rinsed. As it says, which is it's a vaisam, as it says, it means that they should roast the animal as it is, all the flesh complete. You should not leave it over until the morning. If anything was left over until the morning, shall burn in a fire. Ash says, what's the meaning of the second time until the morning? This implies an adding one morning to one other morning. For morning starts with sunrise. This verse here, too, it makes prohibited earlier that the prohibition to eat the leftover flesh is from dawn. This is according to the parrot meaning. Another midrashic interpretation is that teaches you may not burn on Yontiv. You're not allowed to burn it on Yontiv, but on the next day. You're not allowed to burn it something on Yontiv. If you left over the carbon the night before, the next day's Yontiv, you can't burn it. You have to burn it after Yontiv, the 16th day. This is how it be interpreted. Left over from the morning, it shall wait until the second morning to burn it. And this is the way you should eat it. You shall eat it while your loins are girded, and your shoes on your feet. And your staffs in your hand. You should eat it in haste. Pesachul Hashem, it's a Passover to God. Now she says, ready for the way. Chipazon denotes a concept of haste, in a rush, as it's brought down by David HaMelech. Pesachul Hashem, the sacrifice is called Pesach because it's skipping and jumping over, which the Holy One, blessed be He, skipped over the Israelites' house that were between the Egyptian houses. He jumped over from an Egyptian to another Egyptian, and from an Israelite, and the Israelite in between was saved. The Lord, this implies you shall perform all components of the service. You should do it l'shem shamayim. You should do it for the sake of the mitzvah. And which means, another explanation, you shall perform the service in the manner of skipping and jumping in haste, in commemoration of its name, which is called Pesach, Passover. Also Old French, Pascha, Pascha, expression of striding over. I'm going to pass over the land of Egypt. And this night, I'm going to smite every firstborn in the land of Egypt. From animal from man to animal. Into all the Egyptian gods of Egypt, I will show wonders. And Hashem, I am God. Now she says, like a king who passes from place to place. And with one passing, and in one moment, they're all dead. Even our other firstborns who are in Egypt will die. How do you know that even the firstborns of the Egyptians who are in other places will die? If the Torah tells us he killed every Egyptian and the first, doesn't make difference whether they were in Egypt or someplace else. First man and then beast. See, man started off the situation and ultimately dragged the animals into it. The one who made the wood will rot, and the one who made the metal will melt and will float to the ground. Anything, any idol will melt, be destroyed. As a shvatim, I myself, not through a messenger, as we say in the God. This blood that you put on your house will be as a sign. Which you are there. But he says, Adam also say you'll see the blood. I'll jump over you, skip over you. And you won't have any kind of a plague. I'll destroy you, destructive plague. But Casey will I'll smite the land of Egypt. Now she said, the blood is for you as a sign. It's not a sign for others. And we derive that they put blood only on the inside. Again, you see in the pictures that blood's on the outside, but it's not true. It was the blood was in the inside the house. He says Adan. In fact, everything is revealed to him. Why does the Torah mention that God needs to see the blood? God doesn't know which is a Jewish home and which is not a Jewish home. Rather, oh, blessed be, I will focus my attention to see you are engaged in the commandment. Did you do the mitzvah of Dam? Did you do the two mitzvahs that I gave you? Dam Milah and Dam Bit. Did he do the mitzvah or not? That's what I'm interested in. Not that I need to know if you're a Jew, and I know if you're or not. I want to know if you did the mitzvah. Sachti. And she says, it renders I will have pity. Similar to the springing of Pesach rescuing. I say, however, the very expression psicha is an expression of skipping and jumping. Hence, a besachti means that I will skip from the house of the Jews to the house of the Egyptians, where they were living in one amidst the other. Similarly, skipping, two ideas. Similarly, a lame psachim walk as if jumping. So Rashi wants to translate it in the word of jumping. But there will be a plague upon the Egyptians. Let us say the Egyptian was in an Israeli Jewish home. I would think that they would escape. Therefore, the Torah tells us there's no plague upon you, but there'll be a plague upon the Egyptians, even if they're in your house. Let us say a Jew was in an Egyptian home. I would think that he would be killed like the Egyptian. Comes the Torah says, no, there'll be no plague but upon you. No plague upon you. And therefore, even if a Jew was that night in an Egyptian home, he did not get punished. This day will be turned into a memorial day. It's going to become a day of celebration to God. The day they say for your generations. This celebration of Pesach will be forever. Now she says, L'deiris for generations. Hagai said, this day is a memorial to you. Shall be celebrated, but you have not yet heard which day of the memorial. Therefore, the Torah tells, remember this day when you went out of Egypt. We learned that the day of Exodus is a day of Memorial Day. Now, on what day did they go out of Egypt? Therefore, the Torah tells us that on the day after the Passover, they went out. They went out on the 15th day. I must therefore say that the 15th day is the day of the festival. Because the night of the 15th, they ate the Passover sacrifice, and in the morning they went out. They celebrate, and that's what we do. We celebrate Pesach on the 14th at night, but really it's the 15th. L'deiris seichem. I understand this means the smallest number of generations or 2 generations. So you might think only 2 generations you have to celebrate. Therefore, the Torah tells us it shall be a celebrated everlasting stature. Even though l'deiris seichem generations mean 2 generations in general. But over here the Torah wants to tell us that this mitzvah will go on forever. Will never, ever end. But now in the generations to come, it's going to go for 7 days. Shivas yamim matzos techelu, you shall eat 7 days matzos. Ach b'yom harishon tashbisu, you shall leave unleavened matzos. But on the preceding day, the 14th day, you shall clear away all leaven from your house. Whoever eats chametz, the nichras nefesh Yisrael, and that Jew will be cut off from the Jewish nation. Yom Harishon, from the first day of the holiday, ad Yom HaShvi, till the 7th day of the holiday. Rashi is Shivas Yom, it's a group of 7. Shivas Yom matzah techelu. But elsewhere it says, for 6 days you eat leaven. You shall not eat leaven. You shall eat unleavened kamsah. You should eat matzah. So is it 6 days or 7 days? This teaches us regarding the 7th day of Passover that it's not obligation to eat matzah. So as long as one not eats chametz. So the first day you're obligated to eat matzah, but the other 6 days, you don't have the obligation. You could eat matzah or eat nothing. Eat vegetables. How do you know that the first 6 days are also optional? It's only eating matzah. This is the principle of interpreting the Torah. This is one of the ways that we learn the Torah, interpreting the Torah. Anything that it was included in the generalization. So that's a klal prat. That's one of the ways we learn the Torah, and a general and then an exclusion, a singular. So something that was excluded teaches us about itself, but it was excluded to teach us about the entire generalization. In this case, it means that just as of the 7th day, eating matzah is optional, so is optional the 6 days before that. I might think that the first night is also optional. Therefore, the Torah states, in the evening you shall eat unleavened cakes. So it's an obligation. So you have a klal prat, and then you learn from one from the other. Ach b'yom harishon, But the first day, on the day before the holiday, this is all Gemara Psachim. Ach Bayem Rishon doesn't mean the first day, the 15th. It actually means the 14th. Because it's already because it's before the 7 days. Before the Pesach. 14th is before. We start counting the 7 days from the 15th. Indeed, we find anything that has preceded one, Ach Bayem Rishon, called Rishon, Harishon Adam Tival, where you were born before Adam, or perhaps it means only the first of the 7 days. Therefore, the Torah states, you shall not slaughter with leaven your blood at sacrifice. You shall not slaughter Passover sacrifice as long as you have leaven. Which when did they bring the carbon Pesach? They brought on the 14th by day. So that's interesting. Pesach is the only holiday that starts actually in a way on the 14th, on the daytime of the 14th. Even though the first day of Pesach is the 15th. So really Pesach starts at night of the 14th. That's why the Seder is at the 14th at night. But nevertheless, when it comes to Pesach, already it starts. You're not allowed to eat any chametz on the 14th by day, in the 6th hour of the day. So that's the unique concept of Pesach. It's different than any other holiday, that it starts actually on the 14th. You have to get rid of the chametz already on the 14th. And in a way, it starts already the holiday that you're not allowed to eat chametz already on the 14th by day. And you actually, in the time of Beis Hamikdash, you brought a carbon Pesach already the 14th by day. It's not yet Pesach. You brought the sacrificial lamb. You didn't eat it until the night. And Nefesh, now she says, when the person eats leaven while he's with his soul and his knowledge, this comes to teach us a general rule that a person that was forced to eat the chametz for whatever reason, then he's not punishable because you have to eat it intentionally. Me Yisrael, I could understand that the soul will be cut off from Israel, and I will be able to go to another people. Therefore, to avoid this error, Torah says, from before me, a Jew cannot say, you know what, I'm becoming a non-Jew. That's it. I want to eat chametz on Pesach. I'm becoming a non-Jew. Can't do that. You can go eat chametz. That's your free choice. But you're going to be cut off from before me. And therefore, before me, it doesn't make a difference if you say you're Jewish or not Jewish. You don't have a choice in that aspect. But Yom Rishon, the first day of the holiday, is called the holiday. The 15th is called the 14th. Is not a yontiv. So Yom Rishon over here means the first of the holiday, which is the 15th. It's called a yontiv. The 14th not called Pesach yet. Pesach starts on the 14th at night, the 15th. Those are the two beginning and ends of holidays. Yeah, the first day and the 7th day. In America, we go another day, the 8th day. There's 8th day for Pesach. You're not allowed to do any work on the 1st and the 7th day. And it shows only one day yontiv on both sides. You're allowed to do cooking on yontiv. That's a new law that thus was taught to us in the Torah. That on yontiv, difference between yontiv and Shabbos, Shabbos you're not allowed to cook. On yontiv, you're allowed to cook for your food of the day. Now it says Mikra Kodesh is now called the day of holy regarding to eating, drinking, and clothes. Called the day of holiness that the way you dress, the way you eat, express the holiday. No work may be performed on them, even through others. You're not allowed to have others work for you on yontiv. Hulavade, the necessary work of food preparation, I would think that even a Gentile is allowed. Therefore, Torah said that is alone performed for you enough. You're not allowed to cook for a guy on yontiv. You're allowed to only cook for a Jew on yontiv. That the work needed for food, but not preparation that can be done on the eve of the festival, preparing the spit or for the roast, the stove for cooking. You can show whatever you can prepare before yontiv. You should do it. You shouldn't just do things on yontiv. The chol nefesh, even for animals, you're allowed to feed animals. But you might say that also you're allowed again that you're allowed to cook for a non-Jew. You're not allowed to do that. He can cook for himself. Therefore, the Torah says for you. You shall watch over these unleavened cake Because in the middle of this day, the 15th by day, I took all your legions out of Mitzrayim. You should watch this day for generations. It's an everlasting statute. Now she says, what are you watching the matzahs? What are you watching this unleavened cookies? That it should not become leavened. For here the rabbis derive that if the dough started to swell, she, the woman rolling it, must moisten it with cold water. See, today we don't do this because they used to eat matzahs every day, fresh matzahs. You have to be very careful. That's why we don't do this anymore because it can become chametz. You have to make sure that it doesn't become chametz. Must moisten the cold. What Rabbi Yisrael said, do not read as a matzahs, the lemon cake, but as a mitzvahs, the commandments. Thus we may not permit the matzahs to become leavened. So may we not permit commandments to become leavened, to wait too long to perform them. That's the way Rabbi Yoshi learned the pasuk. But if it's a commandment that comes to your hands, if a commandment comes to your hands, immediately do it. Don't let it become leavened. You should watch this day on any work. Forever, generations, everlasting statute. And since the generations and everlasting statute were not stated regarding prohibition of work, but regarding to the celebration of the sacrifice, that's why the Torah repeats itself to tell us, and it warns us, and no work. You're not allowed to work on Yom Tov, just like you're not allowed to work on Shabbos. You're not allowed to work on the first and the last day of Yom Tov. In the first edition, the first month, on the 14th day at night, Teichlu matzahs, you shall eat matzahs. That's when Pesach starts. 14th at night, when you sit down to the Seder, I have an obligation to eat matzahs. Until the 21st day of the month, until the 7th day of Pesach. We can count. Everybody knows how to count. 15 to 21. Why is it stated? It's already stated 7 days. Since it says days, how do we know nights are included in the mitzvah commandment? Therefore, the Torah tells us 21st day. Now, you shouldn't think only daytime you're prohibited from eating chametz, but at nighttime I can eat chametz. That's why the Torah says 21. That we know full days. Shivas Yom Esrei Matzah B'Teicha, in the new mitzvah. Not only not to eat chametz, now we have the mitzvah of loy yematzah, bal yematzah. You're not allowed to find your chametz. Leaven shall not be found in your house. I mean, even if I'm not going to eat it, I cannot see my leaven. Because whoever will eat leaven, that person will be cut off from the Jewish people. By ger, whether he's a stranger or whether he's a native in the land. Now she says, lo yematzah. This is an interesting law, but there's another Bal Yirah. There's an expression alasiyah chametz. So chametz is not allowed to be found. It's not allowed to be seen even. How do we know that the same ruling applies leaven found within the borders outside your house? That my chametz is laying in my barn, let's say, or my chametz is laying in somebody else's house. If the Torah says throughout your borders, why didn't the Torah say in your house? Thus, as your house is your domain, so the prohibition against possessing leaven in your borders means only that's in your domain. It's yours. This excludes leaven belonging to a Gentile which a Jew possesses. So let's say a guy drops in my house chametz in the middle of Pesach, comes in Pesach, and he drops a sandwich in my house. It's not mine. It's his sandwich. Nothing to do with me. So we did not, and I didn't accept responsibility of this sandwich. It's not mine. So it's not when I see it, it's not mine. I have to not see my chametz, not the guy's chametz. This pasuk, this part of the pasuk teaches to punish with the kares, premature death by the hands of heaven for eating leaven. It's a very powerful Veda. Kares, again, the first time in Torah we're introduced to the concept of kares, v'nichrasa nefesh. that God will cut the soul off from the world. This is a very interesting concept. And that a person that eats chametz is cut off, his soul is cut off from the world. He's punished, but he's cut off, but it's by God, the punishment's by God. So eating leaven, but we not give the pasha comes to punish with the kaddish, premature death, the lands of heaven, for eating a leavening. But he did not, did he not already give the punishment for eating leaven? That's what he said before. But this verse is necessary. So what does this verse come to teach us? So you should not say that only for eating leaven, which is edible, did he punish. But eating leaven, which is not edible, he would not punish. On the other hand, if he punished also for eating leaven that is not that did not state that he punished for eating leaven, I would have said that only for eating leaven, which causes others to become leavening, he's punished. But for eating leaven which does not leaven others, would not be punished. Therefore, both of them to be stated whether it's leaven that is like a sa'ur, that's like yeast that can make others leaven, whether it's a leaven that can't be, whether it's eatable or it's not eatable. Either way, you should not have any leaven at all. Since the miracle of commandment is formed for Israel, it's necessary to explicitly include the stranger who was proselytized, but not the descendant of the Israeli stock. He became a ger, he converted. So, my friends, that's why today we burn the chametz, we sell the chametz, we burn the chametz, we nullify the chametz. All these things, we search for the chametz. We want by Yirah or we don't want to find any chametz in our possession that belongs to us. Verse 20, Kol machlad says, you should not eat any leaven. All your dwellings, teichlu matzos, you should only eat unleavened cakes. She says, this is azara achilasi, this is a warning on eating leaven. Kol machletzes, la'avis hataruvis, it comes to even include mixtures, namely that one may not mix a chametz in other food. This comes to teach us that it's the matzah must be fit to be eaten in all your dwellings. This excludes the second tithe and the matzah loaves that accompany the Thanksgiving offering, which are not fit to be eaten in all your dwelling place because there was a carbon. You brought it as a sacrifice. It has to be eaten in the Beit HaMikdash. But only in Yerushalayim, or in Yerushalayim it was second tithing. This insert may be Rashi or the work of an earlier printer. Okay. So it has to be, we're talking about something that can be eaten in all your places. That ends Chumash, long Chumash for today. Start the 18th chapter of the Tanya. The Alter Rebbe explained to us in the pasuk, which he established at Tanya in the beginning of his book, on the verse "Ki karev elecha adav me'od beficha b'vav chalasais," how close it is to you, to your mouth and to your heart, to do. So he explained that even though seemingly we're not tzaddikim, so our hearts are not in our domain totally. We have a nefesh habahamis. We have an animalistic soul that also has a say. And there's alive and well, so to say, and he's kicking, and he's not giving in, he's not giving the heart, he's not giving away the heart so easily. So the Alter Rebbe said that we can have meditation. We can meditate, create a love within our mind. And that will awaken up enough our true love of God, and it will create the concept that we do the action for the sake of heaven. That's really what we want to, he said. The pasuk says today is a day of action. We'll worry about the reward another time. Today is a day of action, and that's what the pasuk wants to tell us. This thing is very close to you. On your mouth, on your heart, to do. So in essence, it's up to us to create this meditative intellectual concept. Now, that's not an easy thing for everybody also to be able to create intellectual. They're too busy. Their minds are too busy, and it's very hard to be focused. I think they say you can have a 7-second focus, really. It's very difficult to focus the mind. It's easier said than done. So the Alter Rebbe is worried about that, because not everybody has the capacity to be able to focus. So if I don't have the capacity to focus, so now basically, what do I do? So how do I, that cannot have great focus in life, create this concept? The Alter Rebbe is going to help us all, because we all have this dilemma to focus and to truly focus on a concept, especially a godly concept. And he's going to answer us, because it's interesting, people love to meditate. When you tell them to meditate on godliness, that they have a struggle, seemingly, on this concept, because the Nefesh Bahamas doesn't want them to meditate on godliness, want them to meditate on every mishigas in the world, but not in godliness, an aspect of Torah. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe is going to give us an idea. Torah says, "Beer by hate to milas ma'id," to explain more clearly and more precisely the word. It says, "Ki karev elecha hadava me'oid." Could have said, "Ki karev elecha hadava." This thing is very close to you. Why does the pasuk say me'oid? Me'oid means very close to you. Pasuk ki karev elecha. The word "very," when you say me'oid, it's very close to you, indicates that it's an extremely simple matter. When you say it's very close to you, not just close, it's very close, that means it's easy. It's a simple matter to serve God with one's heart, with love of fear of God. That's what the pasuk says. Previous chapter, Alter Rebbe explained that the love of God is readily attainable through meditation on the greatness of God, whereby one can generate at least an intellectual love. Tivuna, intellectual love. I might not be able to have a true ava, or ava that's above intellect, but I surely can create some aspect of intellect if I meditate, if I sit and learn. Yet it cannot be said profound. It can't be said a profound meditation that is very near to you. Can you really meditate? Can we truly meditate on Gedulas Hashem? Again, not meditate on Gedulas Hashem. Major difference between Jewish meditation and other meditations is that you're supposed to empty your head. Jewish meditation is you have to fill your head. You have to bring something in, not to empty yourself out, but actually to put something in. Take the other aspects of your life and bring in God. Gedulas Hashem, the greatness of God. That's the meditation. So that's not an easy thing to meditate. One should recognize it, certainly. Even a person who has a limited understanding, the greatness of God. So he lacks the material necessary for meditation. And he has no heart to comprehend the greatness of the blessed infinite God. His mind and his heart are not suited for meditation. So he lacks the tool of meditation. And if he lacks the tool of meditation, so then how can he create to produce through meditation the fear and love of God? Even in his mind, with fullness liba, understanding of alone, doesn't have it. He doesn't have the capacity. So how much more? So if he's unable to do a vibrant, fervent love of fear, comes down to that bed, he lifts us. He lifts us all. Nevertheless, the pasuk says, my dear friend, everything is near to you. For him to guard is called mitzvah for him to guard himself from transgression of the prohibited commandments through the fear of God. Last is called mitzvah and to practice the positive commandments, which requires love of God. These together comprising Talmud Torah, all the commandments of Torah, in particular the study of Torah, which counterbalances all of them. B'lefiv in his mouth, u'b'levavai in his heart, meyumka deliba in the true sense of his heart, be'emes la'amitai, b'dechila v'dechima, with true, something that is true, with true love and fear. That is only the superficial. That's not only superficial of the word heart, which means to say that it's thought, but its true sense of his heart, namely with feeling. From the depths of his heart, in absolute sincerity, with love and fear, as opposed to tavuna emotions, intellectual, which cannot properly be love and fear. They are so designated only insofar as they are motivated in one's actions. So the love and fear which the Alter Rebbe will now speak are the emotions in the fullest sense of the word. How can one acquire true love and fear of God if he's incapable to meditate? The answer, the author, the Alter Rebbe continues. Because everybody loves God. Every one of us has a love of God. It's called in the Kabbalah, Chassidus, Ava Misuteres. Every one of us has a hidden love of God. Where do we get this from? Why does every Jew have a hidden love of God? In every Jew. This love is inherited to us from Avraham Avinu. So every Jew, doesn't make a difference what level Jew he is, and what kind of situation he is. He has to know, because that's the truth, that he has a ava to the Eibushter. He has an unconditional love to God. Something that not he got for himself, something that he inherited. Since every Jew already possesses this love as an inheritance, he need not create it through meditation. He can skip the whole meditation. Like Pesach, he can skip the whole thing. And he can go straight to the Ava. So skip the meditation. Don't worry about thinking about the greatness of God. Go straight to your inner love. All that is required to him is to arouse it and implement it in the service of root. Just connect yourself to the love. Just do it out of love. Because you do love. That's who you really are. That's your real essence. In order to explain how one goes about doing so. So the Alter Rebbe continues to explain this love. So if you'll understand maybe this love, if you know what this love is, maybe you won't understand it, but you'll know it, that you have a love, and what this love is, you'll be able to connect to it. But we must first preface clear and precise explanation. What is the origins of this love? When I say it's inherited, so where was it inherited from? And you have, that's why, okay, also see, that's why you have to go back to the others. Go back to the patriarchs. Vinyana and its character, meaning the sort of striving this love constitutes. There is a love of God which seeks the unity with God while still remaining separate entities. A soul clothed in a body. There's another kind of love, which is a yearning for self-extinction and so forth. What drive is contained in this love, which is our inheritance? How it wasn't inherited to us. And the bigger question is, how does one inherit a love? And also, how is fear also incorporated in it? So how does this all work? As stated previously, observance of positive commandments requires negative, prohibited commandments requires not doing a sin requires fear. Therefore, the statement that the hidden love is in every Jew will lead him to observe all the commandments implies that this love also contains a concept of fear. So what is this love? Where does this love come from? And how is it inherited? How do I have it automatically? I'm sorry, the end over here today. So we'll have to wait till tomorrow. And Mitzvah Hashem, the Alter Rebbe will continue this concept. Today is the 7th day of the month, my dear friends, which is the Tehillim, chapter 39 to chapter 43. If you do those 5 chapters, you do the Tehillim, the Chitas of the day. And Mitzvah Hashem, first of all, I want to remind everybody tonight, Wednesday night, we have the 5 different classes. 5 different classes tonight that everybody's invited to. Come to Chabad, and you can learn any kind of different subject you want. 5 different representing. And if not, I'll see you tomorrow. 8 o'clock, we'll continue the Chitas of the day. Have a wonderful and beautiful day.